Episode 123 of the podcast. This week we're talking about where to find good information about behavior and training. We're going to talk about some conferences, we're going to talk about webinars, and we're going to list off some of my favorite podcasts. Tune in this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. I'm hoping that everyone listening to this podcast is really into some of the behavior and geeking out about behavior. Now, I wanted to list off in this episode where I like to find my behavior information. And one of those places is the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers, which is where I have my certifications through. So I'm a certified professional dog trainer, which is the first step. After you're a certified professional dog trainer, you can move on to certified behavior consultant for canines. I've done both of those. Now, to maintain those certifications requires continuing ed units. And if you go to that certification site, the CCPDT site, they list courses that are already approved for continuing ed. And that's a really good resource for anybody who wants to know more about some of these topics, because you don't need to be a dog trainer to learn more about what we're learning. You can get online and take a look and see what kind of webinars and in-person seminars dog trainers are going to. And I think that's a really great resource for anybody who wants to know more about these topics. I find in the grooming industry, our online stuff is pretty new, but the dog training industry has been online for a while. So there are some really, really good resources out there, and I wanted to tell you more about them. So here is another group, the IAABC, International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. Now, I am a member of this organization. I don't have my certifications through them, but their certifications are fabulous. I will say that they have a conference coming up in May, and that's the Lemonade Conference, which started off last year as When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Lemonade. It's entirely online. That's coming up in May. That's a great resource for anybody to learn more about some of these topics. And you know what? Some of it might be over your head. That's okay. Go ahead, learn anyway. There's a lot of really good stuff. What you'll find when you're looking at dog training and behavior seminars and webinars and conferences is a pretty wide variety. There'll be stuff about sports, there'll be stuff about fears and phobias, there'll be stuff about teaching people. It's a really interesting bunch of topics and definitely worthwhile. Now, I will say that conferences in the dog training world tend to stay up and you have access to them for about a year. Whereas what I'm finding in the grooming industry is they're like a couple of weeks or a month. So your investment is a little bit different. So when you go ahead and pay for a conference for dog training, an online conference for dog training, you might get to rewatch that over and over and over again for a year. So I actually kind of like that. Hey, grooming industry, let's give us a little bit more time with our conferences. But so I said the IAABC conference, and anything that they list for continuing ed is a really good source. Now, there are lots of places for dog trainers to get continuing ed, and there are lots of organizations. I'm just listing off the ones that I'm most familiar with, the places where I go when I'm searching. I am also going to say that if you find some seminar or some webinar or some conference, look and see if it offers continuing ed for the CCPDT or the IAABC, because that means that they've already said, hey, this is good content. This is worthwhile for our certified trainers to know. So that's a good source, something good to know. Anything that says Karen Pryor Academy certified, continuing ed, that's a good source also for anybody who's interested in more about behavior and what's new in the animal training world. I'm also going to list off that the APDT, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, has a conference coming up in September, which is also entirely online, has a really nice lineup of speakers. I am also a member of the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, so I am familiar with them. which is why I feel comfortable listing them off here. These are also good sources if you're looking for a trainer or a behaviorist or a behavior consultant or whatever kind of training help you might want for your grooming customers, these are also good sources. This is a good place to look for, okay, who has some credentials with working with behavior problems? Because dog training is more than just obedience classes. And I really want everyone to kind of start getting a feel for that. Now, I think if you listening to the podcast, you've already figured that out. Like, oh, there's a lot more to dog training. But we also need to be able to explain this to our own customers. So if you're a groomer and a grooming customer's in and you're like, I'd really like you to talk to a trainer about this, let me send you to somebody, we need to explain to them that it's not just about obedience classes. There's nothing wrong with obedience classes, but a lot of the problem behaviors that we see aren't going to be really resolved very well in an obedience class setting, or owners are going to say, we already took him through puppy kindergarten and intermediate obedience, and we don't need to do that again. But a lot of what dog training is about is problem solving and working with intricate little problems. So it's really more about finding the trainer that matches the problem that this individual dog is having and this individual customer is having, or this individual groomer is having with their customer and that dog. I want you to start thinking in terms of, finding out more about these organizations, about these conferences, because you don't need to be a member to be part of one of these conferences, especially nowadays when they're online. Oh, so nice. It's so nice. But I'll tell you, in person is awesome because you get to actually talk to people and meet people, much like the grooming industry. So if anyone out there right now is a trainer and wants to know more about grooming, go to a grooming conference. Grooming conferences are just as awesome. And I find it's a way to recharge your batteries, to get re-inspired. Now, I also want to tell you a little bit about some online sources for webinars. A lot of these are pre-recorded. Sometimes they're classes that you can take, like instructor-led courses that are real-time. But I can tell you there's Raising Canine. Now that one is, there are live webinars, but there's also a really good collection of recorded webinars to just listen for an hour or a 2-hour or a 3-hour course and find out more. There's Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. And Fenzi Dog Sports, you sign up for a class time and you're part of a group that's going through this all together. Great resource, fabulous resource. And the thing about these online courses, whether you're listening to them later and they're recorded or you're taking them live, is that you get to learn a lot more. Now, in the dog training world, what we're talking about when we're talking about grooming and handling is we're talking about cooperative care and husbandry. In the grooming industry, we're talking about holistic grooming and behavior on the grooming table. So just so you know, there's a little bit of the lingo. Like if you're wondering what cooperative care and husbandry are the things that we would be looking for grooming. Now, another source of information for groomers, one that I really like is Towser Dog. So Towser Dog, they're a stream video for your webinars. Many of us don't do really well listening to a webinar that's, like a PowerPoint or whatever, but to have something streaming that you can watch the presenter talking to you, these other videos. Another great resource, kind of similar to what Raising Canine has. Many of them are really up to date. Some of them are older, but really good content. And I believe it's a membership fee. So you can be a member and live stream, and stream anything for like a month for that membership fee. And I do that once in a while for a couple of months and then let my membership stop and do it again next year. Now, one more. And then in the next part, I'm going to talk about podcasts that I really like, because I know you guys listen to podcasts. One more is I really like the publishing company Dogwise. Now, Dogwise, they don't just publish any kind of dog book. They don't just carry any kind of dog book. They're pretty selective. And therefore, it's a pretty trusted source for dog information. And I'll add the affiliate link because I have one. So if you happen to go to Dogwise to look up some dog books, some dog behavior books, some training books or videos, might as well use my affiliate. Dogwise is a really good source because, like I said, they're choosy about what they carry. And that's kind of cool. Now, in the next part, we're going to talk about some of the behavior podcasts that I really like, since I know you guys listen to podcasts. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Here are some of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Now, I'm going to start off with Animal Training Academy. Now, they usually will put one out about once a month, and that could be anybody from any area of animal behavior. That could be a researcher, that could be someone from a zoo, that you could be hearing about birds, you could be hearing about turtles, you could be hearing about dogs, and it's fascinating. Now, the more we learn about behavior, the better we can be at understanding dog behavior too, and how we learn how to teach people. Dog training podcasts are a lot about looking at all aspects of the animal kingdom. So, Animal Training Academy, definitely a great podcast to be listening to. Here's another one, Drinking from the Toilet. That's Hannah Brannigan's podcast. Now, she does a lot with dog sports in obedience. That's also a great one to listen to. And part of what I really like about her is that she speaks to the average Joe as well as a more experienced trainer. So if you are not a trainer, you're not going to get too bogged down. You can easily follow what she's talking about and just level up, which is awesome, right? Level up and learn more. But looking at it through a dog sport lens, we can look at dog grooming as a dog sport too, and I'm going to talk about that later. Like I said, Drinking from the Toilet is her podcast. That's Hannah Brannigan. Here's another one, Sexier Than a Squirrel. Now, the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast is really meant for dog owners, the average owner who has trouble getting their dog's attention, or has trouble getting their dog to listen to them, or is worried about their dog running off. Their whole idea is you have to be sexier than a squirrel. That's the name, right? Sexier than a cheeseburger wrapper, sexier than anything else going on. And so they're really fun and upbeat and silly. Now, I like that. I know some people find that a little bit off-putting, but it's really fun, really silly, and meant for the average Joe to kind of learn how to get your dog's attention and keep your dog's attention and have fun with your dog and build your bond with your dog. And it's really interesting for, I think most owners find something interesting there that they just didn't understand before. And I send my own dog training customers to that podcast. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't, but you know, it's like referring somebody to a good book. Sometimes they read it, sometimes they don't. Definitely a good source for any of us, because sometimes what we're trying to do is help a dog get silly a little bit. Not that we want all dogs to be silly, but sometimes you're just trying to get a dog to lighten up. You know, like, hey, dude, it's okay. Everything's safe. Come on, you're okay. Come on, let's go. Let's do this stuff. And also to help your owners have a better bond with their dog if we're sending them home with homework. This can be part of their homework. So that's the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast. Now, the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy has a podcast too, and they often are talking to somebody who teaches for the academy or someone who does dog sports. That's a great podcast to listen to. And again, we're going to talk more later about why treating dog grooming like a dog sport can be helpful. Now, the last one I'm going to add on here, even though there are more that I listen to, is The Bitey End of the Dog, where they talk a lot more about dog aggression issues. And that's a good podcast to listen to because I think that often we are dealing with dogs that come into a grooming setting and they have aggression issues outside of the grooming setting. And sometimes we forget that. As groomers, sometimes we're like, oh, you know what? He's just like crazy about this stuff and I don't understand why he's like this. But then you talk to the owner more and find out that, you know, they're having problems with him growling at a member of the family. Like, yet they thought it was going to be totally fine to just bring him into a grooming shop and have strangers touch him all over with loud noises and vibrations. And, you know, like, no, that's not going to work, you know? So sometimes we are dealing with a dog that has aggression issues outside of grooming. And maybe they're working on it with a trainer, but in their own head, it didn't occur to them that that was going to be a problem in the grooming setting. So listening to stuff about aggression can be really, really helpful. Now, those are the ones I like to listen to, and I can add links to, I'll I'll put it in the show notes, and I'll also add links to the Facebook group and the Facebook page. Now, when we talk about dog grooming as a dog sport, part of why I would like to see trainers do this also, as well as groomers, is to think in terms of anytime we're talking about a dog sport, we're thinking about what the ultimate end game looks like, right? We're looking at, when we start training our foundation stuff for a dog sport, we're already thinking about what perfection looks like. And if we're not, that's where we're going to end up in problems. So for instance, if we are working on obedience, it's very important to know from the very beginning that heel work is on your left side. The dog is on your left side, right? And you would think that's really obvious, but it's really, really important to obedience work that a heel is at your left. Now you might be asked to have your dog walk on your right side, but that would be something different. And to know that ahead of time, okay? Another example is if you are working on agility, it's really important to know that there's one proper way to enter the weave poles. You would want to know that ahead of time. You would be training toward doing it properly at that end goal. In flyball, it would be very important to know that the dog must grab the exact ball that was in the flyball box and bring that ball all the way back past the start line, right? So there are things that we know are important to each sport. And of course, there are a million more examples out there, but in grooming, we tend to think in terms of how do I stop this behavior, or how do I get him comfortable with just nails? And the thing is that we need more than just how do I get him comfortable with his nails. There's a really good chance that this dog is uncomfortable with other aspects of this also. So if we treat grooming as if it were a dog sport, now I want you to think, what does that end goal look like? What does a great grooming dog look like? And how do we create a great grooming dog? Because that's the purpose of my podcast, right? Some grooming dogs are just, ta-da, they're born that way. You know, the rest of them, we have to teach them. We have to help them understand what is important in this setting, in this sport. So if we think about it as a sport, we're more likely to view the grooming table as something we build on. Like, hey, can you stand on a grooming table? Cool. Can you stand on a grooming table while I touch you with stuff and things? Can you stand on a grooming table while a dryer is running? Can you stand on a grooming table while a dryer is on you? Can you stand on the floor and let me touch you with stuff and things, right? We build on things differently in a dog sport than we sometimes do in a grooming setting. And I'd like to see that change. So the more we think about dog grooming as its own sport, for a dog to learn, because all dogs are going to need to know some aspect of grooming. It's part of healthcare for them. Even if it's a dog that only gets their nails trimmed and like a bath now and then, they still need to know about being handled all over. And maybe it won't be the groomer, but someone's going to be doing it. Maybe that's their vet. Maybe that's a vet tech. Maybe that's their owner. Maybe that's their owner's kids, right? But someone is going to be providing care on that dog. So if we think about it as a dog sport and start getting them used to what the end picture would look like, that's going to be really important. Now, I will say that this is where the dog training industry needs to learn more about grooming. And so any of you trainers out there, I know I'm really heavy on talking to groomers because I've done a better job of getting groomers interested in this podcast, but this podcast is for trainers too. There's a lot of information out there about protocols that do not make sense in a grooming setting. And here's an example of one: nose targeting. Nose targeting and chin targeting. On the surface, that sounds like a great idea. However, it is not a finished product, right? That could be part of what gets a dog to stand still, but that's not a finished product. I don't want a dog enthusiastically pressing their nose into me or into a tool, or having to watch for a dog to move their nose off of a target. I need to know that this dog can just stand and cooperate with me. So from a dog trainer's point of view, if you guys understand more about the grooming process, cooperative care, which is what the training industry refers to grooming is cooperative care and husbandry. Cooperative care, your start button behavior is simply standing still. What? I know, right? Like, wait a minute. Simply standing still? Like, it doesn't need to be more elaborate than that? Nope. Because a dog who wiggles a little bit is now telling us they're not ready. So from a dog training point of view, I want you guys to be thinking about standing still is your start button behavior. That means I'm ready, you may continue. Now, groomers might not understand what I'm talking about there, but I think that you can understand that a dog who is standing and is ready and letting you do your job is a lovely goal, right? So let's make it part of our dog sport of dog grooming. The dog grooming sport where a dog stands still to indicate that they're ready, is repositionable to indicate that they're willing and cooperative, So the calm, comfortable, cooperative dog on a table, in a tub, being reached over, being picked up, being held, reaching your arms around them as if to pick them up. Like, think about the ways that we can incrementally build the behavior that we ultimately want, instead of thinking about like, oh, he was bad about his nails, right? Like, there's so much more going on. So much more going on. So these podcasts, these conferences, I think that these are great opportunities, especially since so much of this is online right now and really quite affordable, right? It's online, quite affordable. The podcasts certainly are free, so can't get much more affordable than free. So there's a lot of really good information out there. And even if some of it goes over our heads, I say our heads collectively because, you know what, I don't always follow what they're talking about. Sometimes I have to look things up and I write down in a notebook and find out more information later. But even if some of it goes over your head, there's so much to learn and it is so neat. So hopefully you guys are going to follow up with that and learn more. If you'd like more information, you can find me at chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.